not the bubble. I'm not the bubble. I'm the pen. I'm not the bubble. I'm the pen. I'm not the bubble. I'm the pen. I'm not the bubble. I'm not the bubble. I'm not the bubble. I'm the pen. I'm not the bubble. I'm the pen. I'm not the bubble. I'm the pen. I'm not the bubble. I'm the.
You're listening to Any Observation, the best NFT, crypto, and gaming podcast ever. With your host, Anders Bjork.
And we are live. Hopefully everything works today. I've had a few issues for the last few times I went live, but hey, that's life. Today I have a special guest with me today. Like, we have been in the wax space for a long time, both of us, and you came out, I guess, a year and a half ago, and started to make a lot of content. And even though we are both very active, we never took the time to sit down and talk to each other, except a few text messages. So how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great, and as I say, it's great to be here, and I hope everyone in chat's having a great day. Yeah, it's crazy how we've both been in the space for such a long time, but have never really, like I said, other than like a handful of Telegram messages, we've never really spoken to each other. So yeah, it's cool to finally be speaking to yourself. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, so let's start with something chill. How's your week started this week?
It's been an interesting week, so to speak. I think there's a lot of change going on at the moment, whether that be with NFTInsider or kind of on the Atomichub side. So it's a very, very, very busy time, but it's fun, it's exciting, and it's the reason why I'm in the space, and I suppose why so many of us are here. It's a fun. It's the cutting edge of the tech space, and we're all here for how the crypto space moves at 1,000 miles an hour. So it's been great.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I don't know where we should start. I guess we should pull back to the start. How did you find your way into the NFT world and the crypto world, and how did you find Wax?
Sure. So before I got into NFTs entirely, which was, I guess, about 2 years ago, I used to be big into poker. I was big. I played a lot of poker, watched a lot of poker. I was watching a poker stream about 2 years ago, and whoever it was, cut to a commercial break. And within that break, there were two guys talking about NBA Top Shot. I thought, this is interesting. I'd heard a little bit about NFTs at the time, but never really dived into it, looked further, that kind of thing. So I thought, hey, I'll give it a Google. Came across NBA Top Shot. I thought, hey, this is cool. Made an account, did a few bits and pieces. And before long, I was like, well, there's got to be more than just, flow and NBA. So I started looking around, and to this day, I wish I remembered what the Google search was that led me to the Wax blockchain. But something led me to Wax. And, I came in, I started seeing all of these art projects firstly. I thought, wow, this is a cool space. And, I got into, I've done graphic design on and off for 10 or so years. So I thought, I'll play around, I'll create a few things. And that's when I got to meet so many people in the community. I became aware of people like yourself and CryptoStash and Ken Bozak and, people like Digital Ducks and all those art-based projects that were on Wax, a year and a half ago, still are in a lot of cases. And I started to find it difficult to keep track of all the drops that were going on. There's more and more artists were coming to the space. I was like, oh man, I can't keep all this stuff in my head. There's so much happening. So I made a little kind of notepad for myself, just with what everyone's dropping, what times they're doing their drops. And I thought, I can't see anyone else in the space doing content for the Wax blockchain, just telling people when people's drops are, that kind of thing. So I went, hey, what, I'll create a website and do it myself and share it with everybody. And it just snowballed from there. So that was, as I said, a year and a half ago. And now, NFT Insider is a part of the Atomichub family. We're a team of 4 people working directly on NFT Insider now. It's been a wild journey, but it's been a very fun ride.
Yeah, I mean, back there, then we were a bunch of people trying to track things in different Discord or Telegram rooms mainly, and we tried a few things, but as you said, there was no one that put it together in a good way for people. Like I'm showing right now your drop post that you make every week, which I know that can be a lot of work to just take all the logos and all the text and everything and then put it all together in a proper way. It's more work than one can think to get all this together. So how is that process? Is it always fun and easy? I mean, it can take a lot of time to do that.
Yeah, it's now that I've been doing it, I mean, I think we're on something like the 70th, 71st calendar we've done. So by now we've got a process in place. But I think in the beginning it was tough. The process hasn't really changed at all. I mean, I've got a form on the NFT Insider website which makes it a little easier. But still, it's a case of direct messaging. I think it's between 150 and 175 creators every week, and just getting all of those responses manually, adding them into like a table on my side, and then putting them into obviously the graphic on the website, and then the longer list, which is all the drops that I feel are necessary. We are right now moving into a kind of a new and more exciting system, let's say, where I think for the past 2-3 weeks, creators will know I've shared with them a link on the Atomichub website where you can basically put in all the information that I need. So, what you're dropping, what the time is, how much it is, all that kind of thing. And hopefully within the next week or 2, fingers crossed, if we can get all the bugs sorted, we will have an interactive version of the NFT Insider calendar on the Atomichub homepage, which would be really, really cool to have that in kind of a go-to location, let's say. And I'm not sure if the notifications and that side of it will be ready when the first iteration goes on the homepage, but I think the long-term plan for it is that users can, let's say, subscribe to particular drops, so they'll be notified just before those drops go live, and it just becomes a much more kind of cohesive experience and a much more helpful one than just having the web page that I do. As cool as it is, I think having something more interactive where people can single down to the specific drops that they are interested in, I think that's a better system for everyone.
Yeah, that's good. So you're building this into the 2.0, I guess. That's very good.
Yeah.
And I mean, as Nick is saying in the chat, the notifications on Atomichub, we had that before for NFTs, and that was gonna get fixed, and now it's gone, and now we're getting new notifications. So that's nice, I guess.
Yeah, I think Jonah mentioned a little bit about the notification system in the Atomic AMA that we published on YouTube this week. It's something that, I mean, when I came into the white space about a year and a half ago, they were there and they were rudimentary. And I think about 2 weeks after I was in the space, they stopped working. Yeah. And they haven't been around since. I mean, I'm not going to go too much into the specifics of how it'll work, but it's a fully fledged notification system that we're working on. So, if you think about, I don't know, your Twitter notifications or your Facebook notifications or whatever it is, where all the things that matter to you as a user, you'll get notifications for, and you can add filters and filter by what notifications you want, what you don't want, etc. That's I think the goal for what Atomichub's new notification system will be. There isn't a timescale on that at the moment. I know Jonah's providing updates when he can, but fingers crossed it will be out in the near future, let's say. Soon.
It's the thing. Everything is coming soon. That's the new thing. Well, the new old thing, I guess.
Oh, for sure. And then in Venice, there's some great tools in the space already that are kind of filling that gap. Whilst Atomichub doesn't have notifications, I see Nick's just mentioned GalaxyBot. That's great. Token Gamer's app, which has notifications enabled for various different transfers and things. That's really cool as well. We've got Taco's app. That's great. So yeah, it's cool to see that, you know, it's not just Atomichub, NFT blocks, etc., but, you know, loads of homegrown projects in Wax all kind of pulling together to create these great tools for the community. And, you know, I love to see that.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I mean, we really need some kind of protection. Now a notification wouldn't necessarily, like if someone compromises your account, a notification won't really save you there. But if you have staked tokens on your account, a notification can be enough for you to go in and actually save those Wax tokens, since you have 72 hours to do that. So in that case, it's awesome. And otherwise, it's just fun to see when you have made a sale or when you get a new NFT into your inventory, an airdrop, or things like that. So that's awesome. And getting notified for new sales is great, because it's kind of hard to find all of the sales, and then you need to know what you like and everything like that. I mean, just the sorting of all collections and then finding something that you actually like and keeping on top of that is a lot of time for everyone.
Yeah, no, it is a lot of, it takes a lot of effort per se, and I think that's, whether in my role at NFTInsider or, you know, what I do with Atomichub, it's all about bringing the community kind of I think saying a better way of doing things is maybe the incorrect term to use, but I think that especially, you know, with our calendar with NFTInsider, it's, hey, I'm going to collate all the information so people can just access it in one place rather than having to be in 75 Discords. And I think that's where some of our focus is on the Atomichub side at the moment, is trying to build things and add new features that help to facilitate that kind of ease of use, you know, rather than having to be in 5-6 locations at once. We can just, you know, give you a notification that can all be in that place, or things like has this been talked about yet? Let me think. I won't mention it just in case, but there's several things. There's several things in the pipeline that we think are going to make Atomichub as a platform a lot more user-friendly, a lot more engaging, you know, more than just a place where you buy and sell NFTs and that's kind of the be-all and end-all. We want to make a much more rounded experience, let's say, with a host of features that will benefit any user, you know, whether it's a creator or a collector.
Yeah, and so I saw on social media that Atomichub is doing some kind of big announcement in a week or so.
Yes.
What is that?
Well, I'll be very careful what I say. Funnily enough, just before we joined this podcast, or sorry, this interview, I was doing some of the graphics for that announcement, let's say, once it is announced. God, I have to be really careful with my words here. So we're looking to announce it next week. I won't say a specific date, but you'll start to see some teasers on the Atomichub social medias over the next few days. It's something we've not done before. It's something that we feel is going to be very exciting, and hopefully something that creators and collectors can all get involved with as well. So I'll leave it at that, but there will be, as I said, there'll be teasers throughout the week on the Atomichub Twitter, and then we'll be announcing it at some point next week. But it should be very exciting.
There's a new OnlyFans with NFTs on Wax. That's what you're saying, right?
Somebody on my live stream, I can't remember when it was. I think it was a couple of months ago. Someone was like, Hydro, is that because I would have like different perks for stream goals and things like, oh, hey, I'll do a 24-hour stream. And somebody pitched the suggestion that, you know, I reveal my secret OnlyFans. Whatever. It's like, I don't have that, guys.
Yeah, I have if anyone writes OnlyFans in my Telegram chat, there is an image of Only Anjo coming with the fonts of OnlyFans.
That's fantastic.
No, yeah, we joked about it the other day about what the big reveal is, and I said that it's my OnlyFans collection that is coming out finally. So that's what the big reveal is. But yeah, joke aside, so there's a lot of things happening, and I mean, we are in what probably can be seen as a bear market, considering the hype we had of everything in the past. and a lot of teams are struggling. A lot of teams have difficulty keeping their employees on pay, funding every project that they set out to build. And yet I see that Pink is still hiring people, which is very positive. So how is the internal dialogue on that and everything?
I mean, it's a good question. I think when I joined Atomichub, which was pretty much a year ago to it, so I've been with Atomichub a year now. I think I was one of the first 10 members of staff, I believe. It was around that kind of number. And I think it was either last week or this week we've now hit, I believe, 40. It might be 38, 39, but it's around that kind of number. So we're expanding into a lot of different areas, and we'll have more information on that in the coming weeks and months, I suppose. I mean, as we posted to our Twitter yesterday, we've just hired our first chief revenue officer, Jeffrey Haas, who, very experienced guy. He's ex-DraftKings, ex-PokeStars, got a lot of experience, and hopefully can help Jonah and Fabian, the rest of the team, with strategic leadership and taking us forward as a company. If you ask me what the financial situation of Atomichub is, but I don't know specifics, but I mean, as you guys have all seen, we continue hiring, we're continuing to build, and everything's looking positive on our side. It can often feel like, and I can kind of appreciate this, whether it's in across our social channels or whatever it is, that we might not seem as responsive or as in touch or whatever it may be, but we have a lot of eyes on the community and community sentiment, but also eyes on the wider Web3 space. Whether that's blockchain gaming, specific projects or specific chains, or where we see people from the traditional gaming space coming into to Web3, but also artists and how small scale artists are doing, how PFP collections are doing, etc. We're keeping tabs on all these kinds of things. One thing we've I think really fleshed out in the last year is data. We have a really strong data team now, and that's really helping us, at least I believe, make good, strong decisions for the future of Atomichub and where we think we can take the company. So, as I said, there's a lot of exciting things coming up, some of which I believe will be announced at Digicon 11, which is in about 10 days' time. We've got a hill there, as we always do. I think we've got 15 different collections in there, and Nuno and our community team are going to run some cool competitions, as they always do. But as I said, I think we'll have at least one or two things to announce there, I think. But you have to stay tuned for those.
That's good. You can't get everything. You just get the teaser, so you know that you should go to Digicon, and that's a place that I have been supporting since the first iteration of it. I think it's if you go there and you interact with people, it's really fun. If you go there and just look at booths, it's very boring. So everything, it's all about getting where people are and going and finding where you find 2, 3, 4 people chatting and going and listen to the conversation, and everyone is very inclusive and you can join, and it's a fun place.
Yeah, it's super fun. It's great for the Wax community to have that space, even if it is once every 6 weeks or whatever the distance between Digicons is. It's cool for us to all have a space where we can get together and just talk to each other freely in a way that we don't really have anywhere else. I mean, obviously there's various Twitter spaces and cool live streams and stuff, but there's nothing quite like Digicon where everybody just piles into this one place, and you'll see someone you've known of in the community for ages but never had a chance to talk to them. You can just walk over and have a chat, and it's great. I think some of my best memories of being a part of the Wax community are from Digicon, having these little chat circles with 20 people piled in talking about whatever it is. It's a great time, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, that's why I'm looking forward to the small unconference by NFT Blocks that is in 2 weeks, which is very soon. And that will be very fun to go and meet people in real life and just converse about different topics and and so forth. Is anyone from your team going there?
I know I'm not personally. I'm going to be honest, I'm not actually sure. We're obviously aware of the event. I think, I believe one of the team reached out to me some time ago with a few details. We're aware it's happening. We discussed it. Although I'm unsure actually. That's something I need to check up on. In any case, it wouldn't be kind of myself that would probably attend something like that. It would be, one of our events team or probably, one of the leadership. But I hope that event goes really well. Actually, I won't be there in person, but I'll be keeping a close eye on social media that week, because I think there's a lot of, or there's this kind of feeling within the community that's, or I've seen some discourse, let's say, that people think, we Atomichub, we hate Nefty and Nefty hate us. And I don't think that there is any of that, at least from our side. Nefty Blocks are doing a great job right now. Their tools are fantastic, and what they're doing for creators is brilliant. Their drop tools are great. And whenever I do drops for NFTInsider, granted that's not been for some time, but I've always used Nefty's tools, and I've had a lot of fun doing that. I have nothing but praise for what they're doing, and I think our Atomichub as a whole has nothing but praise for them. I'll be watching from a distance what goes on at the unconference with interest, and hopefully it goes great. Yeah,
I'm sure it will be a lot of fun, at least, and that's the most important. There will be a lot of interesting people, and I will bring my camera, and I will bring my microphone, and I will try to do some kind of content creation there. I am unsure what, but I hope to do a lot of interviews with people in person and things like that. That will be very fun. And they are actually in chat now saying it would be very great to have you there. So I don't know. Guess you need a ticket. No, but you were just traveling. You were in Germany. What did you do there?
Oh man, I've been a lot of places the last few months. It kind of all kicked off with NFT NYC a couple of months ago. Obviously, Atomichub, we were there as a company, and since then, we've got together a few times. I've been to some NFT events in London, but as you referenced there, I kind of teased that on my personal Twitter that we were having, or some of us in the team were having a chat in Munich. I'm not going to get too much into kind of the details of those chats, but in line with how we're growing as a team and how we're onboarding new people and we're bringing on people with vast amounts of experience. It was a good opportunity for us all to get together and really kind of just think about who we are, who we want to be, the direction we want to go in, how we want to plan for the future, where we think the future will go for Web3 and NFTs and blockchain gaming. And just have some great kind of in-person chats and share our ideas and where we think we go from here.
Where will we go then?
That's a very good question. Some of that is part of the announcements that I've kind of referenced that we're going to be discussing in the part of it is the announcement that's coming next week. Part of it is things that are coming down the line. But they're all very promising and very exciting. And it was strange when I joined Atomichub. It was quite a small team. We had a great marketplace. We were doing great things. But it was quite a small team, and it's been incredible to see the growth, not just in kind of people numbers, in personnel, but in what we're doing as a company. It used to be, hey, we've got this really cool marketplace, and I mean, I can barely even remember the design of Atomichub 12 months ago, but it's vastly different to what it is now. And also, we've got an NFTInsider that we're continuing to push the boat out on numerous fronts, and some other initiatives that we're continuing to build on and continuing to develop. So again, it's frustrating that I can't say as much as I'd like because there's some really cool stuff going. But it'll all be revealed in due course, I suppose.
So you're positive on the future of NFTs. You don't think that everything has crashed. We have hit the end. NFTs are doomed.
No, I definitely still have faith in Web3 and NFTs as a whole. You know, there's a lot of headlines that may be like, oh, you know, sales are down 99%. You know, trading volumes are down, floor prices are down. But there's never been a time, more so than now, where there's more investment, more interest, more money flowing into the space as a whole. And whilst it may, well, I mean, just as an example, you know, I was at Gamescom a couple of weeks ago, and kind of the general consensus around the gaming space in particular is, oh, hey, you know, all gamers hate NFTs and studios don't want to touch it, they don't want to get involved, etc. But from the conversations I've had, and I said this on an episode of the Mint One podcast that we recorded live at the event, from all the studios that we spoke to, I could probably count on one hand the amount of them that didn't have any plans for Web3. The majority of studios, publishers, etc. that I spoke to, they might not be saying it publicly, and of course I'm not going to name names, but they're like, hey, you know, we've got a team, you know, looking into the space, or hey, we're building, you know, the groundworks to our first Web3 game, or, you know, we'd like to incorporate NFTs into this. And a lot of that stuff, you know, because of the nature of game development, is, you know, 12, 18, 24 months away. It's going to be a while before we see it. But it is coming, and it's going to be very exciting to see that kind of the merge between two very different camps at the moment. At the moment, you've got clearly blockchain gaming, and then you've got traditional gaming. I think within the next 24 months, those lines are going to blur a lot, to the point where it's just going to be gaming, and NFTs will become a part of just a you know, the regular gaming experience. And I'm looking forward to seeing that transition take place.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I want to own my items as NFTs, and a bunch of games that I see being created now were announced. They limit themselves before they even get started by looking at what you can do with NFTs on Ethereum, which is for me very sad, because they start by seeing that no, we can't have all items as NFTs. That's the default, instead of figuring out, okay, how can we have as many of our items as NFTs, and then go, do we need to have all as NFTs? And then you can start to say, no, perhaps we don't need the most common items. Perhaps the starting gear don't have to be an NFT, but when you get some rarer type of item, then you can start to get those as NFTs, and then you can have a lot. And then you need a chain where you can have free or basically free mintage of NFTs. It's not possible to go and loot something and you have to pay $100 to get it in mint fees or something like that. It's a proof of concept. It might be it might work for some games in some situations, but when I see people talk about it, that's their default view, and that's a bit sad. So when you were there and talking to games, are they even looking at what blockchain or what NFTs are, or what stage were they at in their discussions and thoughts?
It's a good question. I think from my point of view, you know, I get inundated with press releases from you know, PR agencies and gaming, you know, Web3 gaming companies pretty much every day. And, you know, a good 80 to 90% of them are building on Polygon. I'd say there's a handful from what I've seen so far building on Immutable X. And then there's a few that, you know, are going their own route and want their own solution, their own chain, whatever, which to me doesn't feel like a very decentralized kind of NFT Web3 way to go about things, but that's beside the point. I mean, when you look at Polygon in particular, you know, they have such vast amounts of funding, vast amounts of interest, that for traditional game developers coming into the space, I can understand why they see that as kind of the go-to option. From what I understand, they're a great team to work from. I've heard of great experiences that devs have had with Polygon and working with them, but of course, they're also getting you know, funding and grants and support to really make the support that they need to make NFTs an integral part of their games and to do it in the right ways. Immutable X has a bit of that, but there isn't so much of that on the Wax side, so to speak. I mean, just as a point, Polygon has huge funding. Their business development team is massive.
Yeah.
And they have the backing and the money and the personnel to reach out to everybody and onboard so many people. And I think us as Wax as a chain don't have that as much. We're starting to do bits of that on the Atomichub side. The people that we're talking to, we're trying to get them on board with Wax and get them onto the chain. For some people who are just looking for a route into the space, or perhaps are not game developers first and foremost, it's easier to have that discussion, to be like, hey, you should think of Wax first. Wax is really cool, right? But for, I guess, traditional game devs, a lot of them have already heard of Polygon or have already interacted with their team or, Immutable X or whoever it is. And so that becomes much more difficult to say, hey, Polygon's cool. We should look at Wax. You should look at what we're doing. And obviously with Earwise, we've got Antelope coming up, and we've got Ultra. There's all sorts of competition out there, let's say. But I think this ties back to, I think my philosophy for blockchains as a whole is I don't think it's going to be a one chain rules them all kind of scenario. I think, yes, games might start off on Polygon or Immutable X, but I think we're going to see games integrate more cross-chain and integrated way to communicate on mutable blockchains, because it makes sense, right? If let's say a game starts on Binance Smart Chain, then sure, there's a really cool audience there, but there's this huge, untapped audience that focuses on Polygon that they're not tapping into. And funnily enough, there's a game that spoke to last week, I think, I think this is, they're putting slightly too many chains into their game at the moment, but there's a game that's in very, very early stage at the moment that I think has like 4 or 5 different chains they're looking to integrate. So Polygon, Immutable X, I think Wax is one of them, I believe, and some other chains. But I think at the moment it's very much, hey, this game builds on this chain. And I think we're going to move to this game just builds in Web3. And as EVM compatibility and bridges and integrations continue to be built, the chain that game is based on, I don't think will necessarily matter as much moving forward. When we were at NFT NYC and we had that fireside chat with William Quigley, he was very strong that, hey, we think cross-chain is the future. Wax as a blockchain thinks that, cross-chain integrations is going to be the future for us as well. So I don't know what Wax is doing on their end to try and push that, but I think it's I don't think it's the wrong direction to be going in. I think it's going to be interesting to see how the next year or so goes in that respect.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. There's using multiple chains is gonna be the standard, and it will be interesting to see how teams apply that, because it will be in better and worse forms. And as the technology of doing pure inter-blockchain communication for projects, then that's when it starts to get interesting. Right now, you need to rely on third parties, and if they shut down, everything is dead, and that's kind of not the idea of running things on a blockchain. It should be available for those that want to, even if the project that launched it disappears. And that's, I guess, is the biggest problem I see with IBC, but there are probably ways around that. People are claiming that they have ways around that. They are saying that it will work, but I don't believe it until I see it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. In fairness, I think as we've kind of, well, I think I said this on Twitter before, just because we're in a bear market at the moment doesn't mean that everything slows to a crawl and nothing gets built. I think more so now than ever, not just, you know, funding and all of that that's available across Web3, but in terms of, you know, there's more and more developers coming into the Web3 space as a whole, you know, every single day, you know, whether it's Wax or Polygon or, you know, ETH or whatever it is, there's more and more people looking at the space, more and more people looking to build cool things. And with that will come the tools that we need to truly craft Web3 in the way that we want it to be moving forward. I'm not a developer. I'm not a game dev either. So, I mean, I can think about and, you know, theory crafts on what I would like, but I wouldn't have the technical know-how to say, hey, we should do this, or this is a cool idea. But I'm excited to see people that have much stronger technical knowledge than me build the really cool things that are going to be the fundamentals of the Web3 space moving forward.
Yeah, and also a bunch of game devs are actually they use a lot of pre-built things and add to their game. I mean, there are a ton of games that has a bunch of vulnerabilities that are known. They just don't go and do anything about it. Like people can clone items in a special way in their inventory, and that is it is pretty known how you can prevent that, but they don't. What they do is they have a number, and they have a max number and a min number, and if you reach over the max, you go back to the start. So what they do instead is they send a package with a negative number, and they go up in the top instead in the game, and they get all the items for free, and they dupe them, and they can sell them. And if they do that for an NFT game, and you can mint enormous amount of NFTs by a known bug that people still implement, yeah, there will be issues, and those issues might be bigger in the Web3 world than the Web2 world, because in a Web2 world, you just add another number in a database and that's it. And on Web3, you create something that might have a cost, and that might create long-term problems that you can't reverse in any decent way. Yeah, for
sure. I mean, we've seen games on Wax have exploits that have allowed players to, you know, mint huge amounts of NFTs in a way that, you know, the people behind the game didn't intend. And any kind of exploit in that sense is always going to be more damaging for a blockchain game than it is a traditional game. Like, I mean, let's say something like, you know, item duplication happened in World of Warcraft, for example. You just roll back, you fix it, and you move on, and there you go. But you can't do that in Web3. You know, if somebody's minted 10,000, I don't know, whatever game asset is, you can't remove those. You can't do anything about it. So I think part of, and as we're moving forward, and as the space goes from, I mean, a lot of the games created on Wax are like, you know, first time devs. You know, there's going to be, or there are rather, you know, exploits in their code and oversights and things that just should be done in a certain way that aren't being done. I think as Web3 as a whole moves forward, not just on Wax but on other chains as well, we're going to see standards improve across all areas of the space. You know, we're going to see more well-developed games with proper dev teams behind them that have more experience in knowing what they're doing. We're going to have, you know, developers with more experience. We're going to have people that, you know, have had X amount of years in the industry. And I think, as I've said, an exploit in a blockchain game can be way more impactful than one in a traditional game. So I'm not sure. Again, I'm not a dev. I'm not sure how we need to perhaps change development practices or the way that we test code or do QA testing or whatever to try and root those exploits out. But I think that's going to be a particular point of focus for all blockchain game devs going forward. It's making sure to the best of their ability that their code is airtight. And for the games that can do, you know, go get it audited, go get it checked, go make sure your smart contracts are fine, or don't have any like obvious exploits in them, and build in a responsible way at the end of the day.
Exploits.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just being responsible. You know, if you're a reputable a reputable developer, a reputable team that wants to build a cool game that's going to last the test of time, then you need to do everything you can to be responsible. And part of that is making sure that your code is, is as strong as it can be. And, that doesn't just mean checking it yourself. It means getting third parties in. It means getting, smart contracts audited. It means, going to services like Machinations who can review your game economy and making sure your game economy is set up in a way that it will be healthy long term. There's so many things that, people in traditional gaming have had 25 years to figure this out. Let's take MMOs, for example. World of Warcraft's had 18, 19 years to figure out, hey, here's how we can make an in-game economy. I mean, yes, I know they kind of ruin things by bringing in WoW token and making people can now pay real world money for in-game items, but that's kind of antiguous to my point. They've had a long time for a currency that, in theory, and yes, gold selling is a thing, craft an economy that works and has, things at the right price, et cetera, et cetera. They've had plenty of time to make this work. And I think because a lot of the games in Web3 at the moment are first-time developers, they don't have that breadth of experience when it comes to crafting economies and crafting even what items in a game should be NFTs. They're just like, hey, we should just make all items NFTs. That's not always the best way forward. I mean, as you said, I think, should the in-game token be a token, or should it just be a currency like WoW Gold is? Should only the rarest items be NFTs, or should all items be NFTs? These are very, very difficult questions, and I don't think anybody has the perfect answers yet, or I've not seen a game that has the perfect answers for those.
I don't think there is a perfect.
I think it's completely down to the project and how they build, but I think, as I said, as we get more and more people in the space, more and more experienced people, there's going to be people looking at these questions and building games from the ground up, not just going into it and saying, hey, everything will be an NFT, but thinking, okay, we need to sit down and plan exactly how we want our economy to work, exactly how NFTs will be integrated. It's not just going to be a free-for-all. It's not just going to be, hey, stake this and get tokens. It's going to be, okay, we want this to work in a very specific area of this game, and we want to make sure it works with this well. And I think it's going to make development, I believe, so much more complex, because you're no longer looking at a virtual currency that is in practice worthless outside the game, like World of Warcraft or whatever it is, but a currency that people can then go and exchange, or NFTs that people can go and exchange for real money. And it's very difficult, for what I've seen, to develop a game in that way, where you don't just generate a ton of hype and things become super inflationary. And yeah, it's tough. Again, I'm not a dev, but it will be interesting to see how people approach these kinds of issues moving forward, because, man, they're complex, and I'm not the kind of person who's got the answers. But there's going to be people out there that are working hard on those kind of questions right now, and it'll be cool to see what they come up with.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to see many types of implementations of blockchain and cryptocurrencies, and I think that in more cases than not, more of their assets should be on a blockchain and use the blockchain as the economical layer for majority of everything. Doesn't mean that all actions have to be on blockchain directly. It could be something that is done in another way. And as Nick is saying in the chat, if you open source the code, you get more eyes on it. You usually find the issues faster, but you also give the bad people opportunity to go through your code so they can find the bad issues. So there's a lot of layers and positives and negatives of each decision you can do. But for sure, it's exciting. And as I said before, like the leading question is NFTs. Are NFTs dead? Is there something that? And I mean, no, it's not. The NFT is here to stay. It's technology. Technology is amazing. The first time you can authenticate anything on the internet for real, anything digital, and that will have an impact on so many things that we have no clue about. And most people in gaming that are outspokenly negative about NFTs, they have seen all the rug pulls all the celeb projects where they just launch a merch and then they have a small roadmap and they abandon it, or all the big brands that treat NFTs as the same merch as they do everything else. Hey, you give a brand deal to this company, they can make some t-shirts, and then you have a brand deal to another one, they make toys, and then you don't do anything else, they do everything. And that's how they treat a lot of NFTs, and that's what we're seeing on a lot of these big brand releases on Wax, because we have had a bunch of them where they release something awesome, they are here for a bit, and they go radio silent, and that's very sad.
Yeah, I mean, even within the big, even within some of the blue chips within the ETH space, where we've seen PFP projects just take off massively. I mean, take Doodles for example. I know they've just gone through a funding round and you know, raised. I think they're valued at, I can't remember the exact number, but it's in the hundreds of millions. A lot of these projects are started by, you know, they're not started by people with loads of experience who are planning to make a blue chip. They're started by people that make something really cool, and then it gets a lot of traction, a lot of interest very quickly, and they're like, what do I do now? I don't have any of the skills required to know what to do from this point. So some of them, and rug slip is the term that Rob's coined, but some of them just see this mountain of pressure and things happening in front of them, and they're like, I don't want to deal with this. I don't, currently there's very few repercussions for me disappearing. I'm just going to cut and run. Obviously that's horrible, and that's definitely not what we want for the space.
Nope.
But I think people have also, you know, there's tons of people that are, I mean, we've seen it on Wax, we've seen it on so many other chains, people that create, you know, hyped projects, and, you know, it's, you can't say with 100% certainty, but there's plenty of people that think, hey, you know, I can do some fancy graphics, create a white paper, usually that has no info in it, run some Discord invite competitions, hold a land sale, and then disappear. And it's awful. But I think what for the projects that do well, I think one thing that I always look for, if they have an inexperienced team, and in fairness, it's something that I think Atomichub's done quite well, is that, you know, Jonah and Fabian are two young guys who, you know, built Atomichub in university, and I think very quickly figured out they can't do everything just on their own. You know, they've brought all sorts of people on, and now we're getting, you know, experienced, you know, probably experienced people out from, you know, with great backgrounds. And I think that's what all NFT projects that hit a certain, you know, level of volume need to be doing, you know, especially because, as I said, at the moment, a lot of developers, you know, they're first timers, they might not know what they're doing. If they really want to build something stable that's going to have long-term value, then you need to bring people on that have the experience to, okay, here's what we're going to do, here's our plan, here's how we're going to navigate the next 6 months, 12 months, whatever it is. And we are going to see more of that. You know, it's just the nature of the space becoming more, I think aged is the wrong word, but it's a very young space at the moment. Yeah. You know, what we've got right now is very similar to, you know, early 90s, mid 90s internet. There's so much interest in this space. But it's so tech minded at the moment that a lot of the people in the space are people that either just trade NFTs on speculation, or they're the people that have, you know, people in my space who just want to see where the industry goes and talk about cool stuff to people, or people that are developers and who, you know, understand the blockchain tech and understand how to code in it. And we're going to reach that precipice at some point, whether it's through education or just having that big game that everybody points to as a shining example of what blockchain games can be. There's going to be some big moment that helps to onboard a traditional audience into NFTs and helps to fight this kind of narrative that NFTs are this dark, dirty word that nobody should get involved in. I think there's a lot of, when people talk about NFTs in like a general context in public, it's, oh, NFTs are bad, which always seems a bit weird to me. And
crazy.
A technology can't be bad. It's just technology, but it's how people are viewing how it's used at the moment that people have a problem with. Like, people don't understand why, you know, a picture of a monkey is worth $250,000 US. You know, they see headlines where, there's rug pulls and people are getting away with millions of dollars. And, I just saw a tweet earlier that I think I can't remember which country, but there's some authorities that are looking to chase down Do Kwon at the moment. And there's all these big numbers and very little of it is positive. It's always, oh, hey, big hack, all this money's lost, or all this investors' money's lost, and all these NFTs are down and trading is down, and it's all negative. And I think once we start to see, whether it is AAA devs coming into the space or a homegrown Web3 game really take off and do things in a way that appeals to a traditional audience or to the wider public, then onboarding will happen, but it will take time. I think I've said on the podcast in the past that, I think it's going to happen within like 12 months, 18 months. I honestly, right now, I couldn't even say. Us being in a bear market right now doesn't help.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone looks a little bit. Well, they focus on the negative side of life when it's a bear market. But if we take adoption and people having their first NFT, what type of NFT do you think will be the first one that people have as their own in some way, even if they know or don't?
The first NFT that someone just walking past the street will be something that they don't even know is an NFT. It'll be, let's say Ticketmaster just partnered with. I can't remember who it is, but anyway, Ticketmaster's just moved into the Web3 space. We're going to get to a point where people are going to buy a concert ticket and they're going to get an NFT with that. Whether they interested in NFT, like NFTs, whatever, they'll have their account, they'll buy a ticket, and they'll get an NFT with it. And I think that adoption curve will happen in roundabout ways such as that, where people going about their daily lives, doing the things that they normally do, will get NFTs for just, whether it's going to the shops and getting your groceries, or, replacing the loyalty system that a clothing company has with one that, you sign up for your loyalty system, it gives you an NFT and that gives you certain digital perks or whatever it is. It's going to be much more, it's going to appear like there's no change there to the average person, but there's going to be a lot happening in the background when it comes to, hey, you've been shopping at this brand for 6 months without you even knowing it. You now have all these NFTs, and you think, well, what are these things? And you'll scroll on your phone and you'll think, oh, I've got this and this, or what is this? And they'll think, oh, it's this has some value, or people are interested in this. And I think people will naturally get more interested from there. Yesterday we had PlayStation's latest kind of round of trailers and announcements, and part of that was PlayStation Stars, which they didn't explicitly say they were NFTs. They call them digital collectibles, but we're going to see big giants like PlayStation move into digital collectibles. And the way they kind of put it across in their video, and I don't think they've published many details at the moment, but it's, hey, you're just going to play games like you normally do, and you're just going to get rewarded NFTs for doing it. Whether you interact with them or not, totally up to you. We don't care. Yeah. But we're going to put NFTs in. And at some point, people are going to start thinking, well, hey, I've got these things. I need to learn more about them. And it's going to be more natural. That was a long-winded answer, but I think it'll be more of a natural progression than a kind of a forced, hey, let's stick Web3 in front of you and force you to like it. It's going to be a lot more neutral, a lot more natural. And I think it will happen. It's just a case of when.
Do you think there will be some kind of fix for phishing links where people lose their entire inventory and things like that?
I hope so. Part of that is, people like myself and people like Atomichub and other media sites being like, hey, here's the things you need to look out for. Here's how you stay safe. But for the general public, let's say, if they have a bank card, they know not to, give away their PIN number or, do anything ridiculous like leave their card in, stupid places. And we have to get to a point in Web3 where we've set these these lessons and rules in play. Well, not rules per se, but these common behaviors that people follow to keep themselves as safe as possible. And it cannot be as complex as, hey, keep your the codes behind your wallet, they must be kept offline, written on paper in in a safe, or hey, don't do this, or things have to be really simplified for there to be a chance of mainstream adoption.
How did you store your first key?
My first key for my first wallet was stored in plain text on my PC. It no longer is. Everything I have now is, all that information is on paper. In little, I've got several different places things go. But anyway, this is one of those big questions about Web3. Is that onboarding is also a massive problem in the space. When it comes to creating a wallet, there's very few kind of wallet creation processors or wallet providers where it's truly seamless and easy for someone to do. Yesterday, me and Rob interviewed Michael Sanders from Horizon Blockchain Games. That'll be coming out on Friday on our podcast. But he talked about how seamless Sequence Wallet is, where it's literally 2 clicks and you've made a wallet. Yes, the Horizon team holds the keys, but there we go. And as things stand, yes, holding your own keys is the safer way forward, and it means that you do truly own, what's in your wallet because you hold the keys to it. But I can't envisage a scenario, even 2-3 years down the line, where, somebody walking past the street will know, hey, I have a self-custodial wallet, and I have my my key codes and things. They're written on paper, and stuff. That's not a path to mass adoption.
No, that's the second layer. First you get introduced, and then you play with it, and if you like it, then you move to something that is more secure. At least that's the way I see it. You shouldn't have to learn about everything from. This first level should not be to go and research and then go and play. You should go and play and don't do stupid things, and then you go and research if you accumulate something of value.
Yeah, I know that obviously crypto came out of a kind of a distrust of banks and a move away from banking systems. But if we want Web3 to have this glorious future that we all aspire to, then it has to be as easy for a regular person to use their crypto wallet and to use NFTs than it is for them to use their bank and use their bank card. It should be, hey, I use this and I pay for things, and it should be the same for people's crypto wallets. It's, hey, I have this digital wallet and I pay for things, and that should be all that they have to worry themselves with if they want to. It's like, hey, I can trust that that's safe, and I can use it, and I shouldn't have any issues. And I don't think we're there currently with Web3, but I'd say we're moving in a direction where people are developing the solutions where that's going to become a possibility. And when that happens and the ease of use becomes just as easy in Web3 as it is with traditional currency, traditional money and banking, that's when we're going to see onboarding and people moving into the space just become a lot easier.
But signing up to a bank ain't always that easy. It's complicated, true. But once you are signed up, you can use that for everything, almost everything. You can use that in your life. So once you are signed up, once everything is working, everything is smooth and easy. The problem with crypto, I guess, is that everything is different for every blockchain, every app. You need to have 10 different wallets if you're interacting with different blockchains, and then at some point either the website is updated or the wallet is updated and it no longer works with the old setup, and you need to go and adapt something. And like people used Scatter at the beginning of Wax, and suddenly they can't claim their tokens, they can't update their keys, they can't transfer anything because Scatter is no longer developed. So for them the Wax blockchain doesn't work, but in reality it's their wallet. But for them to see the difference between, hey, I have a wallet, it worked, now it doesn't work. Wax doesn't work for me. That's their point of view. So it is complicated because we don't have this centralized entity. We could argue that going and holding your tokens and your NFTs on a centralized exchange is the way that is the mainstream way, but then you are limited. Unless that exchange has a good solution, you're very limited there as well. Binance is trying, but their NFT marketplace, unless it's updated, is horrible. It's a joke. I don't know how a company with that big that deep pockets can't create something that is better than what they did for their launch. And
no, I agree with you. Funny if I was talking about Binance earlier today with someone, and yeah, it is crazy that a chain with that much traction has a marketplace that's as bad as it is. But hopefully that's something that they'll look to improve on for the good of all of us, I think. And the more that, I mean, not just Binance, but Wax and Polygon and IMX and Ethereum in general, the more we can do to make onboarding as smooth as possible, to promote our wallets and our marketplaces as safe, reputable places for people to buy, sell, and trade, and put out resources that people can go to and read to, include them up on how to stay safe. I mean, that's something that traditional banking has been doing a hell of a lot in the last 10 years. It's like, hey, watch out for this. Yeah. And there's great resources in this, but I mean, your Wax Academy is fantastic. I mean, we had a new writer join the Atomichub, the NFTInsider team a couple of weeks ago. Well, the first things I told him to do was go and read your Wax Academy. I think it's a great resource for that. But I mean, the more we have go-to resources and keep reminding people of best practice, the more that NFTs is going to shake this kind of shady reputation that they have at the minute. That, I mean, they shouldn't do. And that's something I tweeted about this week is, just because we're in a bear market and everything's down doesn't mean everybody in the crypto community is out to get you and everything's a rug pull and every project's going to fail. There's loads of really cool people in the space that are in here for the right reasons, who are building cool things, and there's more people joining every day. So, obviously that's not financial advice in any sense, but there's a lot to look forward to. And I think anybody who's in the crypto, NFT, Web3 space in the minute and who is feeling disheartened by the bear, just stick with it. Maybe you don't want to be trading and looking at your wallet and how the numbers go down on a daily basis, but keep tabs on it. Keep tabs on what's happening. Look at the big companies that and that are household names are doing, are moving into the space. Look at what they're doing and just keep an eye on things, because I think, as much as I can't give a time on how things are going to happen, I mean, Ticketmaster's recently announced, PayPal's in NFTs. There's all sorts of household name companies in the space or looking at building into the space. So just stick along for the ride and see what happens. And
yeah, exactly.
I think you'll be positively surprised come the next few years.
Yeah. So we have talked a lot about the broad things and NFTs and the market and onboarding and a bunch of things. So now next week, Atomichub, will you share now what the announcement is?
You'll have to wait until next week, but it'll be something cool. And it's, I think, the fingers crossed, the first of a few announcements that should be, things that will be well received and exciting for the community and for where we're going as a space as a whole. So for all the projects, since your team is writing about new games and new projects and everything, which are you most excited about? That's on any blockchain that is currently being built. That's a great question. One team that I spoke to at NFT NYC and have been talking to on and off for some time now is Metalcore, which is a Polygon based. If anybody's played PlanetSide 2, which is basically like this multiplayer, three tribes all fighting against each other on this massive map, basically that, but with NFTs and crypto added. It has former AAA studio talent behind it. It's got a great team. I believe they're partnered with Polygon. Really looking forward to that. For games that you can play right now, and in fairness, you'll see me later. I'm streaming today. I think it's in about 3-4 hours time. I'll be giving my first impressions of a game called Phantom Galaxies, which is this kind of space-based RPG, which has NFTs in it, which looks very cool. Also, games that you can play right now. There's Skyweaver on Polygon, which is, just an unbelievable trading card game. Gods Unchained on IMX, that looks really cool. I'm cool to see how Illuvium on IMX does as well. I know that they're in, I think it's closed beta, and they've currently got their Auto Battler in closed beta, but that's looking like a very promising project. I'm looking forward to seeing what Axis Zero is.
Yeah,
I think I'm as in the dark as anyone else is with that, but I mean, I'm liking what I'm seeing so far, so I'm interested to see where it goes. Oh man, there's a lot of things that I learned at Gamescom, but I don't think I'm allowed to talk about yet. But keep an eye on what the big studios and the big publishers will be doing, and there'll be some interesting things to look forward to on that front. Are there any others? I've given quite a few. A few platforms that are great for games as well. Fractal.is. It's a great hub for games on just blockchain games in general. There's also services like Flamestore, which is I think flamestore.xyz, which they're branding themselves as the Steam for Web3, and I mean we've seen a few people try and claim that title so far, but what they're doing looks really cool. On Wax, what am I doing at the moment on Wax? I will say I've been playing some of the closed beta of Blockchain Brawlers, and I think the core gameplay mechanics and the core kind of PvP competitive side of it is very interesting. I mean, when they described it in their announcements as being like, hey, it's like poker but a trading card game, I was like, okay, so it's a wrestling game that's a bit like poker that's also a trading card game. How is this going to work? And I believe it goes open beta on the 19th, I think. But what I've played so far, the gameplay is promising, and it's been fun to play around with it a bit and play a few matches with people. So yeah, I'll definitely check that out. What else? There's a few projects. There's Heroes of Arkan, which is I think is going to be but they're definitely part of it's on Wax, but I think they've got another chain as well. I can't remember which one it is off the top of my head. But man, Nova Rally, Costume Clash is one of my favorites, just from it's just a cool little arcade racer. And man, there's plenty of other projects, but what I'm loving seeing on Wax is more proper games coming to the fore. A lot less clickers, a lot less, hey, stake this and get tokens, which, I mean, that's just clicking once an hour is not a game. But we're seeing more games.
It can be part of a game, but it isn't. You need something more. So what you just said, if I summarize that, is that you follow nothing. You don't really see any positive development out there. No,
that's that's so much.
Yeah, but Axis Zero, what I am really excited about what they have said. Based on what the Wax team has said before, are gonna come compared to what they actually release, are usually they hype something up and they release something that is not as good as what they hyped up. And I do hope that the Axis Zero is not that. They have said that it is an MMORPG metaverse, and that for me goes in my head towards all the awesome MMORPG games, and I don't think that is actually what they are meaning. I don't know. No. I think that what they say is that it is a metaverse where you can interact with something and you have some type of quest line, or there is something that you can do to continue, and I don't think it will like they say, hey, it's gonna be an MMORPG, then you tell me, okay, now we compete with the big MMORPG. Okay, it's an indie game, okay, we compete with the big indie MMORPGs. And I don't think that's the case. I think it will be something cooler than what we have now as a metaverse. That term doesn't really say anything, but I do hope that they deliver on the hype that they create by using terms that people know and associate something with.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. My worry when they said it was an MMORPG is that if you think of all the really big, cool MMORPGs, your WoWs, your Final Fantasy, your Guild Wars, these are games that took years to develop with very experienced development teams. Now, I have no idea how long Axis Zero has been in development, but I mean, we've only started hearing about it in, I'd say, the last 6 months or so. And for them to say, hey, it's going to be this like groundbreaking MMORPG experience, I'll believe it when I see it. I mean, there's a lot of projects in the space in wax, I would say, that call themselves MMORPGs that aren't MMORPGs at all. So yeah, it's when you've got a space, and this is not just wax, but crypto in general, that's so built up around hype and about floor prices and about people wanting to get returns, then it makes it easy. I can understand the difficulty from like a game's perspective. Like, I mean, let's say, for example, I'm not saying they are doing, but let's say if, Rockstar Games were saying, if they promote GTA 5 before it releases, hey, we're building a really, really cool game, you should go play this. And they can say that, and I mean, ultimately, whether people believe it or not, doesn't really matter. People are going to buy the game, play it, enjoy it, whatever. But a blockchain game development company saying, hey, this is going to be the next big thing, you should definitely get involved in this. Well, it's, hey, now all of a sudden you've got prices of NFTs going up, hype's going up, and people are going to be disappointed at the end of that.
Yeah. It is a hard thing to balance, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, if you buy a game and you're not happy with it, you spend like $30 to $100, depending on what game it is. And if the entry point to an NFT game is $100 to $1,000, then it's a way different ballpark if you are disappointed with what you paid for. And the team that produced that, I mean, it's not their fault that they sold it to people and they bought it, but if you hype something up in a way that isn't necessarily in line with reality, or if you promise things that isn't really what is coming, it is not something that I particularly want to see more of. I rather see more transparent teams, and that if you have a small project and you have a big plan, start small, build a small community, build up, move forward. Don't need to make the big bang from day one. I mean, Clash Dome is a good example. They just keep their head down. They keep adding small games, small features to their platform. Their sales, they could have done in the boom, they could have sold so much NFTs, so much, they could have increased the price a lot. They didn't. They wanted to keep their community happy, and if the price go down a little bit, it's fine, because people didn't spend as much, and they spend it, and they can actually use them and enjoy something in their ecosystem. And I think that's a great team that has been here for 3 years now and built games on Wax. And a lot of teams can see that and learn from that, and not go after getting a Lambo from day one.
Yeah, no, Clash Dome's fantastic. I think what they've built so far is brilliant. As you say, they've done things the right way. I think, I mean, there's blockchain games you see out there now where it's like, hey, the early access pass is going to cost you $300 in crypto. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, no game should, you shouldn't have to spend £300 to access any game, and I think if you're, I mean, take a look, what Funko have done with NFTs. I know it's not a game, but I mean, their NFT packs, it's, it's $9.99 for like the standard pack, and $29.99 for, the premium pack, whatever it is. Foregoing any reputational effects this might have had, I think they could have easily sold those packs for like, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 times that price, and they would still sell out of every drop. But they don't, because I don't want to say some people are kind of taking advantage, but there isn't or I don't see there being a viable reason why, let's say, a first-time group of game developers are charging $100 for an early access pass to their very first game. Like, it doesn't make sense. And there are developers in the space who are using NFTs as kind of like they would do a Kickstarter and Indiegogo, but obviously those spaces have more regulation, things have to be done more properly, and the NFT space doesn't have that. On that note, I think regulation and all of that kind of. I talk about it a lot on the podcast. I think it's going to come sooner rather than later, and will help to combat some of these like nefarious ways of doing things. But yeah, it's unfortunate to see some people taking advantage of the space in that way. I'm not saying all game developers are taking advantage of the space because they want to charge $150 for an access pass, but it's not exactly player friendly or accessible for most people to want to spend that amount of money to play a game. If you do that, the only people that are going to play the game are people that can afford to, which is mostly going to be people within the crypto and within the NFT space. People that like traditional games on console or PC will look at that and think, well, one, this doesn't look anywhere near the standard of the games that I'm used to playing, and two, you want me to pay 3 times as much to play it. Like it's
and fine, if that is their audience, they can do that, and there's nothing wrong with them. But then they should also be open to criticism about that from other people. And that's that is a little bit difficult. And I mean, if you go and play something, you like it, and then you go and buy something expensive to do something in the game, that's fine. You have tested it. If you buy something you don't even know what you're buying into yet, then it's a different ballpark in my opinion. But then I'm also the kind of person that don't like to. I don't like to buy a lot of things. If I buy a game, that's the game I'm playing for a long time, and I get a lot of value out of that. And I like to actually sit down and play games, and a lot of people in the crypto NFT space, they don't. They want to do something when they are on their lunch break, or when they are in the sofa watching TV. They want to have their phone and do some clicker game. They want to do some like they have a small plan. They want to do something forward, but they don't want too much involvement. They don't want too much engagement. They want it to take their entire life. They just want something fun to kill time with, and that's very different.
No, I agree with you there. And just to kind of go back a bit, I'm not saying that every blockchain game needs to build their game and target it towards a mass market audience. Games are free to target whatever audience they like, but if we want this mass adoption, then we'll need to have more games look at it in a way that, hey, we're not just trying to cater towards NFT and crypto people, but we also want traditional gamers and people outside the space to like our game as well. Skyweaver does this better than any game I think I've seen so far, both of their onboarding and the way they just promote their game. I mean, it's a really good game. If it didn't have crypto or NFTs in it, it would still be a really good game. It's an addition to the core gameplay and the core of what that game is, rather than the focus of the game itself.
Yeah, that's cool. We have been chatting for a long time now. I think it's time to round this up. I mean, we could continue to talk about a lot of things. It's been a fun, interesting conversation for me, and hopefully for someone else as well. So is there anything that you want to make sure that we share, that you want to get out to people before we wrap this up today?
Sure. Well, firstly, thank you, Anders, for this opportunity. It's been a great chat, and man, I need to get doing more of these. It's been a while since I've done any of these kinds of live things, and I love doing them. So yeah, no, thank you for that. As I said earlier in the show, keep an eye on Atomichub socials over the next couple of days, and next week in particular. We're announcing something next week, and we're also announcing something at Digicon. Although I think the information, or a little bit of information about that, is on the blog on the Atomichub website if you want to go read up on that one. For me personally, I'll be live streaming in about 3-4 hours time, twitch.tv/hydropowered. I'll be doing a first impressions of Phantom Galaxies, and I will also be talking about Wax and talking about NFTs and giving a few things away and that good stuff. NFTInsider.io, we have some interviews coming out this week and a few other cool pieces of content. But yeah, you can find all the links there. So once again,
you
thank
found
you.
the links to you and NFT Insider and everything down below in the details of the video. So that's cool.
Awesome.
Thanks for coming on, and it was a nice chat. And I will invite you again in a while, and we can see what happened then.
Awesome.
Thanks
Looking
for
forward
coming
to it.
on, and thanks everyone for watching. Peace.
A Bitcoin bull is all I got left. Sold my clothes, gold no less. Walls are circling, hollow hands. This man's stronger than